The meatloaf was getting cold, but my wife Jennifer had something more important on her mind than dinner. She sat across from our mahogany dining table, her manicured fingers drumming against her wine glass, that particular look in her eyes that meant she was about to drop a bombshell. After 15 years of marriage, I knew that look well. "David," she said, her voice carrying that practiced attorney tone she used in depositions, "I need to discuss something important with you." Our 17-year-old daughter Emma was upstairs, probably scrolling through social media and ignoring her homework. The house felt too quiet, like the calm before a storm. I owned a salvage yard on the outskirts of town, dealing with twisted metal and broken engines all day. My hands were clean now, scrubbed of grease and grime, but they still felt rough against the cloth napkin. "I'm listening," I said, cutting another piece of meatloaf that I had no appetite for. Jennifer straightened her shoulders, the way she did before delivering closing arguments. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe bun she favored for work, and her gray suit was still pristine, despite the long day at Morrison, Blake & Associates, the prestigious law firm where she'd been climbing the ladder for the past 8 years. "I want an open relationship with my coworker Mercer," she announced, as casually as if she were discussing the weather. "Take it or leave it." The fork stopped halfway to my mouth. I set it down carefully, studying her face for any sign that this was some kind of twisted joke. But Jennifer's expression remained businesslike, professional. She'd clearly rehearsed this moment. "Mercer Thompson?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. I'd met him at several office functions. Tall, silver-haired, married with 2 kids in college. The kind of guy who wore expensive suits and talked about golf handicaps. "Yes, we've developed feelings for each other, and I believe honesty is the best policy. I don't want to sneak around or lie to you. This arrangement would allow us both to explore other relationships while maintaining our marriage for practical purposes." Practical purposes? Like I was a business merger that had outlived its usefulness, but still had some tax benefits. I leaned back in my chair, processing what she just said. 3 weeks ago, I'd found her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. A text message had popped up from M with a photo attachment that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. That's when I'd started paying closer attention. The late nights at the office, the weekend conferences that seemed to multiply, the new lingerie that never made an appearance at home. But instead of confronting her then, I'd done something else entirely, something she didn't know about yet. "Well," Jennifer prompted, tapping her fingers impatiently, "what's your decision?" I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd felt in weeks. "I'll take it." The surprise that flickered across her face was worth everything. She'd clearly expected anger, shouting, maybe tears. Instead, I was agreeing to her proposal with what probably looked like enthusiasm. "You will?" "Absolutely. In fact, I think it's a brilliant idea. We should both be free to pursue whatever makes us happy." Jennifer's relief was palpable. She actually smiled back, raising her wine glass in a mock toast. "To new arrangements." "To new arrangements," I echoed, clinking my glass against hers. What she didn't know was that I'd already been exploring my own new arrangement for the past 3 weeks. Not a romantic one, something far more interesting. Something that involved Elise Thompson, Mercer's wife, and a shared understanding of betrayal that had forged an unlikely alliance. That night, Jennifer packed a small overnight bag with obvious excitement. She was practically glowing as she applied fresh lipstick in the hallway mirror. "I'll be staying at Mercer's apartment tonight," she said, as if announcing plans to visit her mother. "Thank you for being so mature about this, David. I really didn't expect you to take it so well." "I'm full of surprises," I replied, helping her with her coat like the gentleman she'd married all those years ago. After her car pulled out of the driveway, I poured myself a proper drink, bourbon, neat, and settled into my recliner. The house felt different now, like a weight had been lifted. Not the weight of her absence, but the weight of pretending everything was fine. My phone buzzed with a text message from Elise. "Phase 1 complete?" I typed back, "She's on her way to him now. Ready for phase 2? "More than ready. See you tomorrow."
I'd met Elise Thompson 3 weeks ago at Murphy's Bar, a dive establishment on the wrong side of town where lawyers' wives definitely didn't drink. But Elise wasn't like other lawyers' wives. She was sharp, bitter, and absolutely furious about her husband's betrayal. When I'd approached her that night, showing her the same evidence that had shattered my illusions, she hadn't cried or gotten hysterical. Instead, she'd ordered another whiskey and asked what I wanted to do about it. The plan we'd hatched was elegant in its simplicity.
No violence, no property damage, no illegal activities that could land us in trouble. Just pure, calculated exposure of the truth. Jennifer and Mercer wanted to have their affair? Fine. But they were going to have it in the bright light of public scrutiny, with all the professional and social consequences that entailed. Elise had access to Mercer's home computer and phone. She knew his passwords, his schedule, his habits. I had Jennifer's trust and access to her professional life through the social connections we'd built over the years. Together, we'd been documenting everything. Emails, text messages, hotel receipts, restaurant charges, even photos of them together at various locations around town. But documentation was just the beginning. The real beauty of our plan lay in the timing and the audience. The Morrison, Blake & Associates annual Christmas party was scheduled for this Saturday night at the Riverside Country Club. It was the social event of the year for the firm, attended by all the partners, associates, their spouses, and several important clients. Jennifer had been looking forward to it for weeks, planning to debut her relationship with Mercer in what she probably imagined would be a sophisticated, adult manner. She had no idea that I'd already RSVP'd for two, or that my guest would be Elise Thompson. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Jennifer was practically floating on air, coming home late each night with stories about her wonderful new relationship. She talked about Mercer like a teenager with her first crush, his intelligence, his ambition, his plans for making partner at the firm. "You should get to know him better," she suggested over breakfast Thursday morning. "Maybe we could all have dinner together sometime."
What about the other thing? Elise smiled for the first time since I'd known her. Already taken care of. I called in a favor with a friend who works in HR at several firms around the city. Word is going to spread fast once this gets out. Any second thoughts? I asked. None whatsoever. Mercer made his choice when he decided to destroy our family. Jennifer made hers when she decided to help him do it. They want an open relationship? They're about to get more openness than they bargained for. Saturday arrived gray and cold, typical December weather that matched my mood perfectly. Jennifer spent the entire day getting ready for the party. Hair appointments, manicure, shopping for a new dress that she claimed was for my benefit, but was obviously intended to impress Mercer. "You don't mind if I spend most of the evening with him, do you?" she asked while applying her makeup. "I know it might seem awkward at first, but I want people to understand that we're all adults here." "Spend as much time with him as you want," I assured her. "I'll be plenty entertained." At 6 o'clock, I put on my best suit, navy blue, well-tailored, the one I'd worn to our wedding 15 years ago. It still fit perfectly, and I looked good in it. Professional, respectable, like a man who belonged at country club parties with lawyers and their spouses. Jennifer was stunning in her new black dress, and I told her so. She beamed at the compliment, kissing my cheek carefully to avoid smudging her lipstick. "Thank you for being so wonderful about all this, David. I know it's not conventional, but I really believe we can make this work." "I believe we can too," I said, straightening my tie in the mirror. "Nice to meet you too." The circle of people around us had grown larger, though they were all pretending to have their own conversations while obviously listening to every word. Patricia Morrison was practically vibrating with excitement at being witness to what was clearly about to become the scandal of the year. Mercer finally found his voice. "Elise, what are you doing here?" She replied sweetly, "When we discovered we had so much in common, he thought it would be nice for us to attend social events together. I think it's wonderful how understanding he's been about your relationship with Jennifer. Most husbands wouldn't be so mature about their wives having affairs." The word affairs hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Several people gasped audibly, and I saw phones being discreetly pulled from purses and pockets.
In today's social media world, scandal spread at the speed of light. Now, wait just a minute, Jennifer started, but I cut her off gently. No need to explain, darling. Everyone here are adults. I'm sure they understand that modern marriages sometimes require modern solutions. I turned to address the growing crowd around us. Jennifer and I have decided to try an open relationship arrangement. She's exploring her connection with Mercer, and I'm exploring mine with Elise. It's all very civilized. The silence that followed was deafening. Then the whisper started again, spreading outward through the party like wildfire. I could see people pulling out their phones, texting furiously, making discreet phone calls. By morning, everyone in the legal community would know about the arrangement. Jennifer grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in hard enough to leave marks. We need to talk, now. Of course, sweetheart.
I think we've accomplished what we came here to do, Elise murmured in my ear. She was right. The seed had been planted, the story was spreading, and by Monday morning, everyone in the legal community would know about the situation. But this was just the beginning. The real consequences would unfold over the coming weeks as the full implications of their choices became clear. "Shall we go?" I asked Jennifer. "I think we've socialized enough for one evening." She nodded mutely, gathering her purse and coat with shaking hands. Mercer started to approach, but Elise intercepted him smoothly. "Good night, darling," she said, kissing his cheek with wifely affection. "Don't stay out too late. We have so much to discuss tomorrow." The drive home was silent, except for Jennifer's occasional sniffles. She stared out the passenger window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. When we pulled into our driveway, she finally spoke. "This isn't over." "No," I agreed, turning off the engine. "It's just beginning." Monday morning arrived gray and bitter, matching the atmosphere that had settled over our house like a heavy blanket. The sky outside the kitchen window was a dull sheet of steel, the kind that promised cold without drama. Even the house seemed quieter than usual, as if it had learned to hold its breath. Jennifer had spent most of Sunday in bed, claiming a headache, though I suspected she was actually making phone calls, quiet, urgent ones, trying to figure out how to contain the damage from Saturday night's revelations. Every so often, I'd heard her voice drop to a whisper, the cadence of someone bargaining with consequences that refused to negotiate. I was in the kitchen making coffee when she finally appeared, dressed in her most conservative business suit and looking like she hadn't slept in days. The confident posture she usually wore like armor was gone. Her shoulders were tight, her movements careful, as if even the floor might betray her. "I'm going in early to talk to Blake," she announced, her voice hoarse. "Good idea. Get ahead of the story." I poured her a cup of coffee, adding cream the way she liked it, the muscle memory of 15 years refusing to disappear overnight. Though I suspect he's already heard quite a bit about Saturday night. Jennifer accepted the coffee with trembling hands. She didn't meet my eyes at first. "David, please, can't we find a way to fix this? I made a mistake, I see that now, but destroying both our careers isn't going to solve anything." "I'm not destroying anything," I said evenly. "I'm simply supporting your decision to have an open relationship. You wanted honesty and transparency. This is what that looks like." Her jaw tightened. This is revenge, and we both know it. I considered that for a moment, sipping my coffee while studying her face. The fine lines around her eyes were deeper now, the strain of the weekend etched into her expression. She looked older somehow, as if the weight of exposure had accelerated time. "Maybe it is," I admitted, "but it's also exactly what you asked for. You wanted to have Mercer while keeping me as your safety net. You wanted to restructure our marriage to accommodate your affair. Well, congratulations. Our marriage has definitely been restructured." Jennifer set down her coffee cup with a sharp clink, the sound louder than it should have been in the quiet kitchen. "What do you want? Money? The house?" Jennifer's car pulled up to the gate around 10 o'clock, followed by a black sedan I didn't recognize. Jennifer got out of her car looking worse than I'd seen her since this whole thing started. Thin, pale, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. The man who emerged from the sedan was tall, expensively dressed, and carried himself with the kind of confidence that screamed attorney. He approached me with his hand extended and a practiced smile. "Mr. Morrison,
I'm Richard Sterling. I represent your wife in some legal matters. I wonder if we might have a word. I wiped my hands on a shop rag and shook his hand, noting the firm grip and the way his eyes cataloged everything around us, the equipment, the inventory, the obvious signs of a profitable business. What can I do for you, Mr. Sterling? Perhaps we could speak somewhere more private. This is a delicate matter. I led them to my office, a small room above the main floor that overlooked the entire operation. Sterling took in the view with obvious calculation, while Jennifer sat in the chair across from my desk, her hands folded in her lap like a schoolgirl called to the principal's office. Mr. Morrison, Sterling began, settling into his chair with practiced ease, I'm sure you're aware that your wife has faced some professional difficulties recently. I'm aware that she was terminated for fraud and ethics violations, yes. That's a rather harsh characterization of what was essentially a misunderstanding about expense account policies. I leaned back in my chair, studying both of them. Is that what we're calling it now? A misunderstanding? Sterling's smile never wavered. The point is, these difficulties have created financial hardship for Mrs. Morrison. He had the kind of face that had seen too many late nights and too many bad decisions to bother judging anyone anymore. I ordered a bourbon and settled in to wait. The ice clinked softly as he slid the glass toward me. I took a slow sip, letting the burn anchor me in the moment, my eyes drifting across the room. A couple of men played pool in silence. A woman nursed a beer at the far end of the bar, staring into nothing. Nobody paid me any attention. Mercer walked through the door at exactly 9 o'clock, looking around the bar with obvious distaste. He hesitated for half a second, as if considering whether he'd made a mistake coming here at all. This place wasn't his world. It showed. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his usually perfect hair was disheveled, and he moved with the careful steps of a man who'd been drinking before he arrived. There was a stiffness to him, a forced control that didn't quite hide how close he was to coming apart. He spotted me in the corner booth and approached with the kind of aggressive swagger that usually preceded either a fight or a complete breakdown. His shoulders were set too rigidly, his jaw clenched like he was daring the night to challenge him. Given his recent circumstances, I was betting on the latter. Morrison, he said, sliding into the seat across from me without invitation. Thompson, you look terrible. The words weren't meant to provoke, they were simply accurate. Thanks to you. He signaled Pete for a whiskey, then fixed me with what was probably supposed to be an intimidating stare. It didn't land. I know what you did. The photos, the financial records, the whole setup at the Christmas party. I'll walk away, end the relationship, disappear from her life completely. You can have her back. Try to rebuild your marriage. The offer hung in the air between us, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. He still didn't understand what this was really about. You think I want her back? Don't you? This whole elaborate revenge scheme, the public humiliation, the systematic destruction of our careers, it's all about getting her back, isn't it? I sipped my bourbon, considering how to explain something that Mercer clearly couldn't comprehend. This was never about getting Jennifer back. This was about consequences. You and Jennifer decided that your desires were more important than your commitments, your families, your professional obligations. You acted like your choices existed in a vacuum, like you could have your affair without affecting anyone else. So you decided to destroy us? I decided to make sure your choices had appropriate consequences. You wanted Jennifer? You got her. You wanted excitement? You got that too. But you also got everything that comes with those choices, the professional repercussions, the personal costs, the social consequences. Mercer's second whiskey arrived, and he attacked it with the same desperation as the first. You're insane. You've ruined both our lives. Over what? Wounded pride? Jealousy? I've held you accountable for your actions. There's a difference. Jennifer's talking about going back to you. Did you know that? She says she made a mistake, that she wants to try to rebuild your marriage. That was news to me, though not entirely surprising. Jennifer's romantic adventure had turned into a nightmare of unemployment, legal troubles, and social ostracism. Of course she was reconsidering her choices. What did you tell her?
that she's delusional if she thinks you'll take her back after everything that's happened. You're not the forgiving type, Morrison. You're the type who holds grudges, who never forgets a slight, who'll spend years planning revenge against anyone who crosses you. You might be right about that. So what's your endgame here? You've destroyed our careers, our reputations, our relationship. Jennifer's broke and desperate. I'm facing criminal charges, and you're sitting here drinking bourbon like you've won some kind of victory. What happens next? I finished my drink and stood up, pulling out my wallet to leave money for both our tabs. What happens next is that you live with the consequences of your choices. You find a new career, probably in a different city where your reputation hasn't preceded you. You rebuild your life from scratch, hopefully with a better understanding of how your actions affect other people. And Jennifer? Jennifer makes her own choices, just like she always has. If she wants to try to rebuild our marriage, we'll see if that's possible. If she wants to continue her relationship with you, that's her decision too. Mercer stood up as well, swaying slightly from the alcohol. This isn't over, Morrison. I still have options, legal remedies. I can make your life very difficult. You're welcome to try, but you might want to focus on your own problems first. I hear the district attorney is very interested in those expense account irregularities. I left him standing at the table, staring after me with a mixture of rage and desperation. Outside, the December air was sharp and clean, cutting through the smoky atmosphere of the bar. I sat in my truck for a few minutes, letting the engine warm up and thinking about what Mercer had said. Jennifer wanted to reconcile. After everything that had happened, after the public humiliation and professional destruction, she wanted to come home and pretend none of it had ever occurred. The question was whether I wanted that too. My phone buzzed with a text message from Jennifer. "Can we talk? I know it's late, but it's important." I typed back, "Tomorrow, lunch at the diner on 5th Street, noon. Thank you. I love you, David." I stared at those 4 words for a long time before deleting the message without responding. Saturday morning, I woke up early and drove to the salvage yard, needing the familiar routine of work to clear my head. Tony was already there, as he was most Saturdays, catching up on projects that had been pushed aside during the busy weekdays. "You're here early, boss," he called out as I approached the main building. "Couldn't sleep. Figured I might as well be productive." "Everything all right? You've seemed a little off lately." Tony had worked for me for 8 years, and he'd developed an almost supernatural ability to read my moods. He was also one of the few people who knew the full story of what had happened with Jennifer and Mercer. "Jennifer wants to reconcile." Tony set down the wrench he'd been using and gave me his full attention. "What do you think about that?" "I think it's 6 months too late. But you're thinking about it." It wasn't a question. Tony knew me well enough to recognize the signs of internal conflict. "Part of me is thinking about it," I admitted, "but I want to try to make things right." "What brought this on?" "The last few months have been hell. Losing my job, the legal troubles, the way people look at me now. I've had a lot of time to think about what I threw away." "You threw away our marriage for Mercer Thompson. How's that working out for you?" Jennifer flinched at the direct hit. "It's over between Mercer and me. Completely over. I see now that what I thought was love was just excitement, rebellion, midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't worth destroying our family." "But you did destroy our family." "I know, but maybe we can build something new, something better." The waitress brought our orders, giving us a moment to regroup. Jennifer wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, as if trying to absorb its warmth. "What exactly are you proposing?" I asked. "I want to come home. I want to rebuild our marriage, earn back your trust, be a proper mother to Emma. I know it won't be easy, and I know you have every right to refuse, but I'm asking you to give us another chance." "What about the legal troubles? The Bar Association investigation? The financial problems?" "I'll deal with all of that. I won't let it affect you or Emma. I've already talked to a lawyer about bankruptcy options, and I'm looking into other career possibilities. I need to know that I have something to rebuild for." I studied her face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation. What I saw instead was desperation, regret, and something that might have been genuine remorse. "Why should I trust you? You lied to me for months, betrayed our marriage vows, committed fraud to fund your affair.
Why should I believe that you've really changed? Because I've lost everything that mattered to me except you and Emma. I understand now what my choices cost, not just professionally, but personally. I don't want to be the kind of person who destroys her family for temporary excitement. But you are that kind of person, Jennifer. You proved that when you made those choices. People can change, David. People can learn from their mistakes and become better. Some people can. Others just get better at hiding their true nature. Jennifer reached across the table and touched my hand. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I'm asking you to give me the chance to prove that I can be worthy of that trust again. I looked down at her hand covering mine, remembering all the times we'd sat in restaurants like this one, planning our future together. The house we wanted to buy, the vacations we'd take, the dreams we thought we'd share. Most of those dreams were gone now, undone by her choices and by how I chose to respond. I need time to think about it. Of course, take all the time you need. I'll be staying at the Riverside Motel until I figure out more permanent arrangements. What about Mercer? What about him? Is he going to be a problem if you come back? Jennifer shook her head firmly. It's over between us. Completely, permanently over. I see him now for what he really is, a selfish, manipulative man who was willing to destroy both our marriages for his own gratification. Interesting how your perspective changed once the consequences became real. I deserve that. I deserve much worse than that.
The question is whether you want to be defined by what she did to you or by how you choose to respond to it. It was good advice from an unexpected source. Elise had every reason to want me to remain bitter and unforgiving. It would have validated her own anger, justified her own pain. Instead, she was pushing me toward clarity, not comfort. The snow continued to fall outside my window, and I continued to think about second chances, about whether forgiveness was an act of strength or surrender, about whether reopening a door meant hope or repetition. I wondered if I was strong enough to take one or wise enough to refuse it. Either way, the choice was mine to make, and for the first time in months, that felt like enough. The story of my marriage's destruction was ending, but the story of what came next was just beginning, and this time I would be the one writing it.